The advice and opinions expressed by the host of Autism Live and her guests are meant solely as suggestion and should not be in any way construed as child-specific advice. The Center for Autism and Related Disorders advises working with a board-certified behavior analyst who has experience with autism before starting any intensive behavioral intervention. Any choices you make in determining your child's treatment are completely at your own discretion.
Good morning and welcome to Autism Live. I'm Shannon Penrod. We're webcasting to you live from the Center for Autism and Related Disorders headquarters in Tarzana, California. So thrilled to have you here on this Thursday morning. A lot going on this morning here in the studio. Very excited about the show that we're going to be bringing you today. We are going to be with you live for the next 2 hours talking to you about autism from a 360-degree perspective. Whether you're a parent, teacher, practitioner working with an individual who's on the autism spectrum or you yourself are on the spectrum, we hope that we will be a resource for you for information and services and things that are important to you, information about how to see progress in your daily life, because we know that that is probably of paramount importance to you. It certainly is to me. This entire show is meant to be interactive. We hope that you will participate with us by writing in and telling us your questions, suggestions, topics that you want to have covered, gripes that you've got, things that you've seen in the news that you want more information about. Whatever it is, we'd like to hear from you. Emily's going to cycle through some of the different ways that you can get in touch with us here. I'm going to remind you that if you go to www.autism-live.com, that is our home site. You can watch the show live there, or you can watch the most recently done show that's recorded there. You can also pick from other recent shows as well. When you go to Autism Live, though, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, you have the opportunity to watch something, and you have the opportunity to interact. There is a white box next to the computer screen, and if you put your cursor there and start to type and hit enter, it shows up on the screen here, and we can address it during the next available live show. I know some of you have written in, and we're still cycling through and getting to questions. We're going to get to some of those today. I have some of them on a list for some of our experts to address. So bear with us, and don't be afraid to post your question a second time. That doesn't ever, we get it. There's information that you want, and we want to give it to you. So if you feel like you've been lost in the mix and your question didn't get asked, don't be afraid to post it again. We try to be diligent about it, but I confess to being human and I make mistakes. In any case, I also like to remind you at the top of the show that I am not an expert in autism. We have lots of experts who come on the show, but I am not one of them. My job here is to kind of be the switchboard. I want to connect you. I am a parent who, my one and only child was diagnosed with autism at the age of 2.5. He's now 10, and he, thank goodness and thank God and thank so many other people, is doing really spectacularly well because I got information very early on that helped us to help him. I am very humbled by that and so grateful for all the help that we got along the way on this journey and the help that we still get. I learn from you guys on a daily basis, and I learn from the experts that are here. But I want you to know that I made a bargain a long time ago. Nancy Alspaugh Jackson calls it the kitchen floor club. At one point I was down on the kitchen floor going, oh, help me, right? And if you help me, God of my understanding, I promise that I will do everything I can for my child, and at my first available opportunity, I'll do whatever I can to help other people on this journey. So here I sit, gratefully so, paying up my dues, right? Trying to pay it forward as much as possible. I know that you guys are doing that too, so participate with us. And together, you know what I always say, si se puede. We can do this together. We absolutely can. Whatever you have going on, I know sometimes the burden is heavy. Sometimes you feel like you're alone. We're here for you. We'll hold hands with you. We'll send you air hugs, and we'll make progress, because that's really what we need to do. That's what we need to focus on. So And boy, do we have a show about progress today. I'm so excited. It's really been an amazing week. I got chills just thinking about it. But we like to start the morning, our sort of morning warm-up to get, moving along and jazzed up. We start the morning with something we call the jargon of the day. This is when we take on those words and terms and letters that can really mess us up if we don't know what they mean. The experts will talk to us and they'll use these different terms, and I used to be militant about it and say, can you just put it in plain terms that anybody would understand? And then I realized that took time. And in the world of autism, time is money and the clock is always ticking, right? And none of us have enough money. So if time is money, if we get the opportunity to learn these a little bit at a time, it's going to save us time and help to create that progress that we want to see so badly. So today, our term is preference assessment. Okay, what does this mean? Assessment's one of those words that about 20 years, everybody, especially in education, we don't call anything a test or a quiz anymore. We call it an assessment. Oh, thank you very much. We're going to assess the situation. Okay, so when we do a preference assessment, what are we doing? Let's look at our actual definition here. A preference assessment, a procedure to determine the stimuli that a person prefers, the relative preference of those stimuli and their presumed value as potential reinforcers. If it's your first day on the autism journey, you look at this and you go, huh? What? Excuse me? If you've been around for a while, you've definitely heard the term preference assessment, and hopefully you understand our working definition, which is checking to see what might be most rewarding or reinforcing for someone. We talk about a lot here, principle number one is that in order for any of us to engage in any behavior over and over and over again, it has to be rewarding on some level. We need to get some sort of paycheck for doing it, or we're not going to do it long term. You can bully us and we will do it for a certain amount of time, but at some point we go, I'm just not going to do it, right? Think about all the things in your life that you think, I say I want to do that, but I just don't manage to do it, right? It's because it isn't a big enough paycheck, or it isn't an immediate enough paycheck. The paycheck is not fitting the energy that has to be expended or gotten over to get this thing done. Well, the same thing is true for our individuals who are on the autism spectrum. We need to give them rewards for things that are stimulating enough to get them to engage in the behavior on a regular basis and an ongoing basis. So we want to check in with ourselves and with the individuals that we're working with to see what is reinforcing to you. And, when you put it in terms for yourself, because then the picture all starts to get clear. If somebody said to me, I can't eat chocolate, I'm allergic to chocolate. So if somebody said to me, hey, if you do this, I got a piece of chocolate cake for you, that means nothing to me. You're not in my ballpark, right? You got to get in my, but there are other people you could say to them, you could say to my husband, oh, do this, and there's a piece of chocolate cake, and my husband would be getting up and doing things, right? So it's very personal. And by the way, it changes day by day, and it changes minute by minute based on what's going on with you right now and what happened a few minutes ago. So in this example, if you see, oh, chocolate cake is very reinforcing to my husband, but if you just fed him a piece of chocolate cake and now you ask him to do something again for a piece of chocolate cake, not as reinforcing because he's had his chocolate cake, right? So whenever we're doing something with a child, we want to make sure that the reinforcement matches and is motivating and stays motivating. Now, why am I bringing this up this week? You're going to see in a moment, because this is going to go hand in hand with what we're talking about this week. I think it's really illuminating as a parent when you start thinking of things in this way. I've mentioned that we've been doing a star system for my son, that when because we've had a terrible time in the last couple of years getting him to do the work. We got to keep refreshing it, right? So this year we instituted a new policy. The teacher gives him a little star on the back of his paper for each time that he shows his work, either in math or in English. He doesn't want to do the steps, right? So he's doing the steps, he gets a little star, and I had a reinforcer paired with it, and sometimes it was happening and sometimes it wasn't. That's not going to work for me. It's not going to work for him. It's not going to work for the teacher. So I have to be reminded. And I thought, why don't I just ask him, what do you want to work for? What do you want to cash those stars in for? And he tells me, and the empowerment of that, now he's getting a huge number of stars every day. And by the way, the things that he wants are so much less expensive and time consuming than the things I was offering. Who knew? So great. My child is incredibly verbal now and can express his wants and his desires, but we can do a preference assessment with a 6-month-old baby who cannot speak. It's just a matter of knowing how to set it up. It's really essential, though, that we do preference assessments so that people and individuals are working for the thing that's really meaningful to them. All right, hang on to that thought because we're going to come back to it. We always have a question of the day. And the question of the day, we hope that you participate with us on Facebook and let us know your thoughts and feelings about this because it helps all of us learn a little bit more. So we want to know today, what's your child's favorite activity? And I heard this morning at the breakfast table, my husband was very excited by some of the things that you guys were already writing in this morning. So we're going to check in a little bit later on. Really key to know, what are your child's favorite things to do, because it may be that might be something that's reinforcing enough that it will help you to get over the hump of something that's really hard, a task that they need to do, if that's the reinforcer. So please write in and tell us. I'll tell you the other benefit of this. If you write in and tell us what your child's favorite activity, there are people who will read the site who need new things for their children to do and they don't know what to try. And when you guys write in and say, oh, my child loves to do this, that's just another idea for them about, hey, I never thought about that. I haven't tried that. That's very exciting. I love to learn from you guys about what your kids are into, and also to see, oh, my child's into that too, so I'm not alone. It can be very reinforcing. So I hope you will write it on the Facebook. Now, we always have a topic of the week, and this week our topic has been the field of technology and apps for autism. Now, what does this have to do with preference assessment? Well, you probably can figure that out, because so many of these things are really reinforcing for our kids. By the way, they're reinforcing for us too. I think about it all the time. I'm a former teacher, and from time to time I dream about going back to school, how much I'd love to go back to school, because I went to college back in the dark ages where they were just starting to have word processors. So we were using the old electric and standard typewriters, which, I'm sorry, I didn't want to take classes where I had to write lengthy papers. It just wasn't what I wanted to do. Because then once you made a mistake on the paper and you had to deal with all the whiteout and the little sheets of, the plastic it wasn't reinforcing, right? Now you make a mistake, you type, you look and you take the cursor back and you fix it, and you don't have to retype the whole thing. What an incredible thing. And then as a teacher, being able to use that kind of technology with students who would get frustrated, or students who had dyslexia, or students who had, fine motor problems, I think I'd love to go back to school. For all the things that they have now and the apps on top of it. I'm going to talk about an app that's really been very exciting for me this last month, and it's helping me achieve things that I've been saying for a long time that I want to achieve, because I found something that's actually reinforcing enough. Who knew, right? So when we look at some of these things, we're really looking at what's a huge reinforcer. And if we can pair that with a learning experience, the lights come on. We see time and time again that this is a way to reach our kids. And we've got a whole show today that's about inspiring new cutting-edge ways to reach our kids. I'm so excited about today's show. I just have to not burst into tears because I'm so excited about it. So one of the people that we're going to have on this morning, amazing individual, Rosalind Picard, is going to be joining us. I'm not sure what time, because we were talking with her a little bit before the show about having her start a little bit later, but she is part of the MIT Technology Autism Communication Technology Initiative. She is at the forefront of some amazing technology that is shaping and changing the way we're going to be able to treat autism. It's truly, truly exciting. And I believe a little bit later on today, we're going to show just a brief segment of her TED Talk. These are the kind of people, when I say all the time on the show, thank goodness brighter minds than me are working on these kinds of things. Well, this is amazing, the biggest and brightest brains at MIT working on these kinds of things. Truly, truly inspirational. We also are going to have BCBA Chris Maraca. He's going to be demonstrating a new app for us that I think you're going to find really fun. John Coyne is going to be with us. He is from Goodby, Silverstein and Partners, and he's going to be talking about a documentary that they were involved with called I Want to Say. It's available for free on YouTube. Oh, it's breathtaking, this video about the power of technology in the hands of our children with autism, and especially our children with autism and our young adults and adults with autism who do not have vocal speech. Ooh, amazing. And then also today, we are going to have BCBA Angela Persicke with us for Breaking It Down with Angela. And she's going to be talking about some new research about technology and autism, and she'll be answering your questions. So it is an amazing day here at Autism Live. A lot coming up for you, plus which we're going to try to get to, as I said, some of your questions and to your responses to what is your child's favorite activity. So all of this and more, stick with us. We'll be right back after these messages.
You say howdy, we say hi. Let's get rowdy, let's get wild. Let's get wild. Let's get wild. Let's get wild. Let's get wild.
Hi, I'm Lisa Ackerman. Welcome back to another What's Left in Cooking Friendly for Kids with Allergies. And what we're going to make today is a pizza crust. We got lots of emails, and I really appreciate all the feedback. A lot of folks have been asking about what pizza crust is yeast-free, no eggs, and no gluten and all the other fun stuff. So we're going to take that challenge head on. And if anyone who likes New York type style thin crust pizza, oh, that's what we're going for today. We're going to start with 1.5 cups of almond flour. Now for folks who have allergies with nuts, there's a great bread pizza crust mix from Anna's that I really like. It's another great alternative for people who are avoiding a lot of carbs and sugars. So I like this one as well. So Jamie's going to get the flaxseed meal going, and now let's talk about the starches. What's really important about this recipe to get that crisp New York style pizza crust is arrowroot. I love arrowroot starch. It has a lot to offer for binding and pulling this recipe together. And I also have my coconut oil. I'm a big fan of coconut oil. You've heard me talk about that many times. Next, we're going to add in our spices. I like a little spices. If you've got a kid that doesn't like spices, it's okay, but I've gone really light in the oregano and basil. So we're going to go ahead and add that in with the baking soda. And for folks who like a little sweetness, I do like maple syrup a lot. But you can just add just a wee bit for flavor. I use typically maybe 1/2 teaspoon. So what's great about what Jamie's helping me with now, it's great for kids that have digestive issues. It gives a great deal of fiber and also allows a binding, like what you would look for in a gluten flour. This is a great gluten-free option. And this is a modified recipe from the website Real Sustenance. I love those guys. They do a great job, but I always like to tweak things, but appreciate them. Shout out. So we're ready to roll out our pizza crust. I'm so excited, Jamie. This tastes really good. We're going to get the pizza crust going and the pizza toppings ready as well. So all I'm doing with the pizza crust is laying down some of my great parchment, unbleached parchment paper. And scare your husband with the rolling pin. That's always good times. So we're just going to real simply roll this thing out. You really want it to be as thin as possible. And it's really all a matter of preference as to how thin you want it to be. This is not a really good thick crust, so that looks good. So I'm just going to go and outline my pizza crust so it's going to look a little prettier when I take it out of the oven. So don't be afraid of the rolling pin. Your husband can be afraid of the rolling pin, but you don't need to be afraid. This is why you gotta love parchment paper. And here we go. We're gonna pre-cook this at 350 for about 22 minutes. Look at this pizza crust. It's not totally cooked yet, so that's okay because we're gonna add our toppings to this. Most of us have a can of organic tomato sauce in our pantry. So all I'm doing is adding in just a smidge, okay, a quarter teaspoon of oregano. A smidge doesn't work in measurement. A quarter teaspoon of basil. And a wee bit of salt. Okay, a quarter teaspoon of salt. And for kids who are really sensitive to tomatoes, this is great because you can make it as fine as you want it to be. That's great. That smells good. So if you want to cheat, you can use this puree. I like to take the roasted tomatoes, which is great, and push this around on my pizza crust. I know I use my fingers.
That's the only way to make pizza.
Exactly.
It's made with love. Kids love helping to make pizza too because they feel really involved in it. And they get to put however much they want of things. So
Yeah.
Good family affair.
And we love the Daya cheese. It goes on pretty much almost everything in my house. I'm going to go ahead and add the Daya cheese here. Too much cheese makes it a little soggy, so you may want to cook it a little longer and have it get a little bubblier. We're also using some organic sausage. This is the sweet Italian sausage, and the more the better. And then we're going to add our sliced back olives. I love olives, but again, if you've got a kid that likes pepperoni, there's a great nitrate-free pepperoni from Boar's Hill. There's our pizza ready to go in the oven. I'm ready. Let's do this. Our pizza's in the oven at 400 degrees. You can go anywhere from about 25 to 30 minutes, but again, you really want it bubbly and cooked. If you put it at a higher temperature, the fake cheese doesn't like that and it can scald. Your kid's gonna love you for such a great pizza. We'll see you next time on What's Left. If you have any questions, please email us at autismlive@gmail.com, or you can hit facebook.com/autismlive, or go to the Taco website at Tacanow, TACANOW. There's thousands of recipes waiting for you to enjoy. We'll see you next time at Autism Live. What's Left?
You say howdy, we say hi. Let's get rowdy, let's get wild. Let's get wild.
Welcome back. Our friends over at the Autism Daily newscast have a really amazing story this morning that we wanted to share with you. It's titled "A Theatrical Early Intervention Scheme for Autism." Theater and theater studies may prove invaluable to children and young adults when enhancing their communication and social inhibition issues. A study released October 22nd in the Journal of Autism Research has indicated that children with autism and ASDs reportedly respond exceedingly well to theater, in particular musical theater, as a part of their early intervention and communicational therapies. The observation-based research conducted by Vanderbilt University saw a number of autistic children take part in a 2-week musical theater camp and measured skills with social interaction and communication post-camp. Children appeared visibly happier and able to communicate more efficiently post-attendance. Called SENSE, S-E-N-S-E Theater, the Social, Emotional Neuroscience and Endocrinology, SENSE program, evaluates the social functioning of children with autism and related neurodevelopmental disorders. Camp participants ages 8 to 17 join with typically developing peers who are specially trained to serve as models for social interaction and communication, skills that are difficult for children with autism. The camp uses techniques such as role play and improvisation and culminates in public performances of a play. Blythe Corbett, PhD, Associate Professor of Psychiatry and Vanderbilt Kennedy Center investigator said, the findings show that treatment can be delivered in an unconventional setting, and children with autism can learn from unconventional interventionists. They're typically developing peers. Our findings show that the Sense Theater program contributes to improvement in core social deficits when engaging with peers both on and off the stage. Corbett said, this research also shows it's never too late to make a significant difference in the lives of children and youth with autism spectrum disorder, as the program targets children who are much older than kids who are participating in early intervention, yet we are still seeing significant gains in the core deficits of autism and in a rather brief intervention. There you have it. To read more on this story and for other breaking news in the field of autism, I encourage you to visit autismdailynewscast.com. What an amazing, amazing story. I absolutely love it. What a great additional thing to be doing. And so many of you write in all the time and ask about what can we be doing with our teenagers. What a fabulous, fabulous thing to do. Musical theater, it does a body good. We're going to take a break and we're going to be back with more. Stick with us.
When you find out you're having a boy, you always think like, oh, he's going to play football, he's going to do this and that. And then when he's diagnosed, all those things get washed away.
It's like that piece that's always in the back of your mind, you know, where is he, what is he doing, is he safe?
We really didn't know what we were dealing with. I wish that they could have directed me a little bit more and provided me some information.
I was a young mom. I didn't know what it was like to raise a boy, despite a boy with autism.
Hundreds of thousands of families are not getting the help they need for their children with autism all around the country. ACT Today is determined to bridge the gap. These families really have to go through a lot to get a grant. The application process isn't easy. The records, the diagnosis proof, they're really battling for their kids. So when we can give them a grant, it is so wonderful to see that they succeed in getting that help for their children. Our founder, Dr. Doreen Graham-Pichet, is an amazing woman, and she is one of the world's foremost authority on behavior of children with autism. She's extremely knowledgeable, and she oversees every single grant we give. She is part of that process. People may think of autism care and treatment as simply schooling or therapy, but we provide important safety supports, things like fencing, for example. The whole family's living in fear of that child running out into traffic. I recently delivered an iPad to a little boy with some of the apps that are out there for children with autism. Miracles happen.
I got the iPad from ACT.
From ACT,
What
yes.
did it say? Can you repeat that, Dustin?
I got the iPad from ACT.
We have helped so many military families, and when I think of these brave families that are fighting two battles, one to protect our country and one for the right treatment and care for their children, it breaks my heart, and I think we have to do more as a nation to help them.
There's not a day that doesn't go by that we don't think about it. Some people say, oh, he's normal. You don't see the battles that I see every single day. My husband does have to deploy, and when they get on that bus, that might be the last time that my kids ever see them.
So I called, and then they informed me that he had received the grant, which was like a blessing from above. I was just like speechless. I just started to cry because, without it, we would have been lost.
The ACT grant was a total miracle, and without that, they wouldn't be able to receive the service dog. So we're so appreciative what they've done for us as a family.
Recently, ACT Today funded a program for military children with autism in San Diego, the Inclusion Films program, which is run by Joey Travolta, and teaches kids on the autism spectrum literal filmmaking skills. They learn how to make a movie.
Are we ready? There you go, got it. Okay. Everything that goes into the process of making a film goes into everyday life. So they're learning life skills, they're learning to collaborate.
It was really nice to know how much they were enjoying this camp. and they're with people who are supporting them and are making them feel great about themselves and their differences and their similarities. And I get two kids that are working together and apart and together and apart, so it's an interrelationship as well as a camp and a learning experience.
It's so fulfilling when I get letters. One stands out for me, a boy who was 14 with Asperger's, and we gave him a grant to go to a drama camp. He wrote to us and said, "Dear Act Today, thank you for letting me belong for the first time in my life." These kids are remarkable. You know, we underestimate them. They're so knowledgeable, they're so capable, and we can change the life of a family, which means changing the life of a community.
Welcome back to Autism Live. I am so very excited because we have with us in the studio right now Christopher Miyake, and he is the creative director of game development for the Center for Autism and Related Disorders. Welcome to the show, Christopher.
Thank you.
And you are here today to show us a really exciting app that can be used with our children to do what?
To work on objects, and so there are, should I open it now?
Go for it. Let's see it.
So Camp Discovery Objects. This is the start, and we have 4 different levels. So there's matching identicals, similars, sorting, and receptive. And we have a library of 49 objects.
Okay.
And the children can go through and play the different levels. And on this screen, you just go ahead and pick what objects you want to go through. And then you can go through the different levels.
So what we're attempting to do here is make a really exciting way for a child to learn the label for an object.
Yes. You know, traditionally a therapist would deliver this, or and we're trying to do it in a little more exciting way. A lot of kids love technology.
I'm already loving the little music. But so, CJ, can you teach me? Can you program it to do something and then teach me as the student? Because we know what it would look like if a therapist were doing it. Can you show me what it would look like if you and I were doing it?
Yeah, so I'll start back at the level screen. And we'll start with the first level.
Okay.
Pick it there, and then you can go through and pick whatever objects you want to work on. So we'll start with...
I like the fish.
Duck. Oh, you want to do fish?
I like
and computer.
Okay.
Go to play. And it's just going to tell you to...
And so I'm starting with matching.
Yep.
So so it tells me put with same, and I'm going to put it with the same. Now this doesn't seem really difficult, but there's a reason why it shouldn't be difficult in the beginning, right?
Right. So we're going with errorless learning. We want our kids to be successful the whole way through. Whereas a lot of games may want you to struggle.
Right.
And have it feel like you're accomplishing, you know, something by going through, you know, errors. We want the kids to be successful from the start.
And I noticed that there's a time limit on it, that I want to do it before the green bar runs out.
Yes. It is set to about 5 seconds.
Okay.
And we want it to, you know, mirror therapy as much as possible. And so, yeah, the timer and the way we work with the kids and introduce targets. And
now something really important just happened. We've moved away from errorless learning, that it's giving me, now we're doing discriminative training, right? Where I have to put it with the same. I've got a choice of putting it with the fish. If I do, it doesn't, you know, make any horrible noise, but I go backwards, it's gonna make sure that I know what I'm doing. So it really follows along with me at the speed at which I'm learning.
Yes, and it adapts. So if you're making errors, it's okay.
I am making errors. But you know what else I love? I've got a lovely little fanfare noise when I get it right. And I get to see, is this an owl that pokes down at me when I get it right? I love seeing the owl. It makes me want to do it more. Okay, so and this lesson gets progressively harder and harder.
Yeah.
And then it progressed. So, and we were just in step 1 where it's matching, and then eventually we get into other areas besides matching, correct?
Correct. It goes from matching identicals to matching similars, to sorting, and then finally receptive.
And as a parent who has gone through this kind of training, can I stop it so that it just, okay. As a parent that's gone through this kind of training with a child, you know, we talk about the fact that every moment is a teaching opportunity. And, you know, so maybe a therapist would come in and start something, but throughout the day, when there were breaks, my husband and I would try to continue working on objects. And if you think about how much more you can maximize your time with a program like this, because then it goes in the car. And when you're driving to get to speech and OT, they're playing the game. It's reinforcing for them, but they're still learning.
Yeah, it's one of the big draws for creating apps, you know, designed for our kids, is that we can maximize all the time we have during the day, especially if they're on the iPad, you know, all day anyways.
They love it. It's reinforcing for them. And we're going to talk more about this, but tell us, Christopher, how can they get this app?
You can download it from the iTunes store if you search Camp Discovery Objects. And then I think tomorrow, Friday, we are pushing to Android as well.
Okay.
So you can find it on there.
And is there a cost for the app?
The app is free.
The app is free.
And it will be free on Android as well.
And what range of ability would you say that this app is appropriate for?
You know, kids, this is a program, the Objects program, and all the levels in there are for kids that are just starting out.
Okay.
And so, I mean, it can be played, you know, any age, but it's primarily targeted to kids who are just starting.
Okay, so for kids who you're really trying to build language skills, you're early on, and I know that you guys are talking about making a lot more apps, so we're going to keep you here and we're going to come back and talk some more with Christopher about the power of apps, putting technology in our kids' hands. Stick with us.
The Institute for Behavioral Training provides courses in applied behavior analysis for the treatment of autism. Access IBT e-learning videos on the move and learn at your own pace.
I'm going to talk a little bit about intensity.
IBT e-learning makes any location your classroom on the go.
So our objectives for today are to really learn what is autism and how is it diagnosed.
Get professional guidance with IBT face-to-face training. IBT face-to-face training courses prepare you to effectively implement ABA-based interventions. Choose between small group and one-to-one instruction. Earn BCBA supervision hours via one-to-one video conferencing.
So I had a chance to review your BIP today. You know what? It looked really good. You did a good job with it.
IBT continuing education courses. Earn credit through webinars, conferences, article reviews, and e-learning videos. You can learn more at ibehavioraltraining.com. IBT, 360 degrees of ABA training.
Welcome back to Autism Live. We are here in the studio with Christopher Miyake. And did I say it right?
Yes.
Okay. And he is the creative director of game development for the Center for Autism and Related Disorders. I also want to disclose that Christopher is semi-known to me, although we always knew you as CJ, because a way long time ago, for a brief period of time, CJ was one of my son's therapists. In fact, when I talk about trying to take my child to Little League, CJ was our go-to therapist, that we would trot him out into the middle of nowhere to a baseball field in the middle of nowhere so that he could help address some things. You really kind of saved our keister on many occasions. And it was... And can I say, too, on a personal note, it was one of the low points in life for me right around then, because I've shared before on the show that I went through a period of time where I was largely agoraphobic, where I couldn't leave the house. And that was right when CJ was coming and we had to leave to go to the baseball field. So I'm having panic attacks. He's dealing with my child. I was not my highest self. And CJ was remarkable. So really fun in the scheme of life to come full circle. And now here you are, developing some amazing games for our kids. And I know firsthand how good you are at making things reinforcing for kids so that they can learn. And now you're demoing for us this wonderful Camp Discovery app. I wanted to talk a little bit more about the different levels. I think as a parent, when you're starting out and you say, I want to work on language skills with my child, it's so overwhelming, right? You don't know where to start because your child just didn't pick it up. And for many of our viewers, you've discovered skills and you go in and you're starting to work on skills, but sometimes even that can be overwhelming for a parent. We watch the therapist do it and you guys make it look easy. And this now is a great way to kind of bridge that gap between the therapist and the parent, correct?
Yeah, well, we want to be able for our kids to learn at all times, and we want it to, really sync up with everything that has been built in skills. And so one of the options when you're creating a player here is to enter your skills ID. And eventually we want everything to sync, all our games to sync with all the lessons and the skills. And so we can go through, and as a parent can go through skills and say, I want my child to work on objects and receptive labels. And then skills will say, oh, here, we have a game for it. You can go in here and play. So therapists can come in and work on it, but while the therapists are gone, the parents don't have to worry about as much about how they present the objects and working and making sure it's all consistent.
Because you guys call it the stimuli, and I call it the stuff, right? And for me, dealing with the stuff, it's hard. It's like another language that you have to learn. Lining the things up and taking them away and switching them up and making sure that it's you're keeping them occupied and they're not getting off the chair. It's a skill. I mean, and you guys are really good at it, but as parents, I find it difficult.
Yeah,
and
we do it so much, it becomes second nature. That was actually a big part of the process, working with the programmers, was making sure they understood it conceptually so they could implement it in code.
Wow.
And making sure it all worked out.
Well, it's remarkable because one of the big things I know that gets talked about with therapists is that you don't have a lot of lag time between trials.
Right.
And that's when you have to deal with the stimuli. So basically, if you put out 3 things and say, give me the car, and the child gives you the car, you're supposed to be marking down the data on it while you're taking the 3 things, rearranging them, and making sure that the child is still engaged.
Yeah, and telling them good job and making it.
Yes. And not letting a lot of time pass before you're ready to say, give me the apple. It's a skill. So the app is doing that for us.
We are tracking the trials, so the child in 10 block increments. And then hopefully in the future, it's not in there right now, but the parent can go and see how they're learning, and if the app is helping their child learn quicker than maybe therapy, or supplementing what they're learning in therapy. And hopefully that information will be out there soon. We're working on getting all the logistics sorted out. But
that's remarkable. So that's where this technology is heading.
Yes.
Really remarkable. Of course, you don't have to be a skills user to use the app.
No, anyone can use it. There are benefits to syncing with the skills ID. But yeah, it's for anyone, and we have had it. I just lost my train of thought.
That's okay. So. That happens a lot in this room. There's a place where thoughts go in this room. I can't tell you how often that's happened to me. I blame it on other things. I blame it on my age. You don't have that excuse. But in any case, there's a lot of stimuli here. So, but I just think this is really remarkable, and you're going to be applying this kind of technology to other things as well.
Yeah. A big part of what I'm doing right now is going through the lessons and trying to figure out where we can effectively use technology and turn it into an application or a game for the kids to use.
Really remarkable.
But even Camp Discovery, we have big plans in the next couple of months to make it a little more reinforcing. We have a little owl guy right now, but we want to do a whole avatar thing for the kids and a little more personalized experience for them. So
that's really remarkable. Do we have the ability right now to add other objects, or is that something that's coming down the road?
No, we would like to. Well, we're going to have different Camp Discovery objects is the first one. We're also going to have body parts and all the other different lessons.
Wonderful.
And then. Yes, we would like to have it where the user can take a picture and add their own things and their own labels too.
How exciting. I'm sure your day is different and exciting every day. And I know as a really good therapist how rewarding this must be for you.
Yeah, it's awesome to see it all kind of come together. And especially we're eager to see how the kids react to it.
Yeah.
And get some feedback. But.
Wonderful. Well, we hope that you guys will try Camp Discovery. And as Christopher said, it is free to you right now on the App Store. You can go and get that. And we hope as of tomorrow, you'll be able to get it in the Android market as well.
Yes, that's our target tomorrow.
That's target tomorrow. Okay, I would love it if you guys go and check it out and play this game with your kids, and then let us know if you used it and what you thought, and give us a little mini review of Camp Discovery. And then we'll look forward to more things being rolled out from your department, as you are the creative director of game development here, and so you'll come back and let us know when you get something new to show us.
I will.
Okay, fabulous. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
And for showing this wonderful, wonderful app. We're going to take a break, and we're going to come back and take a look at your answers to the question of the day, and we've got a bunch of guests coming up, so don't go away. Stick with us.
Skills is an online program that provides assessment, curriculum, positive behavior support planning for challenging behavior, and progress tracking, and it does this all in one place. The skills assessment and curriculum addresses 8 areas of development, which even includes advanced higher level areas such as executive functions and cognition, which pretty much makes skills the only ABA-based set of curricula for teaching more complex skills, things like problem solving, planning, self-management, perspective taking, and even inferring and predicting others' private events. Skills is a 4-step system. Step 1 is to add the child to your account. Step 2 is to start assessment. The skills assessment is the only ABA-based assessment with psychometric research demonstrating the language subscale to have excellent reliability. Every area of human functioning and typical child development from infancy to adolescence was researched, making the skills assessment the most comprehensive of its kind in the world, and we're quite proud of that.
Skills is easy to use. Simply click Start Assessment and begin answering questions. Or simply type in a keyword, find specific activities to assess, and add activities to treatment. Step 3. Choose activities. Once you've completed the assessment, Skills selects from a pool of 4,000 activities categorized by age, level, and skill type to provide you with exactly those activities each child needs. Start by choosing a curriculum, then a lesson, and finally an activity. Click the information icon to view prerequisites, ages in which targets develop, examples, and IEP goals. Click the video icon to watch a short video. Once you've identified an activity you want to teach, adding activities to treatment is a snap. Step 4. Start treatment. Here you can access customizable activity lesson details, add your own customized targets and exemplars, and edit an activity status such as introducing or mastering it. You can even print handouts such as worksheets, tracking forms, visual aids, and other materials. Skills also offers multiple progress charts mapping curriculum progress, lesson progress, and cumulative number of activities and targets mastered over time. The Skills language curriculum is categorized by verbal behavior type so that users can identify progress for verbal operants, such as echoics, mans, tacs, and interverbals.
Skills is one of the only programs that provides the ability to write behavior intervention plans, or BIPs, for challenging behavior.
With just a few clicks, the outline of the behavior intervention plan is written for you and ready to be printed and implemented.
You can learn more about Skills today and get started by visiting us at www.skillsforautism.com, or you can call us at 877-975-4559. Skills. Progress starts here.
Welcome back to Autism Live. Of course, a question came in, and CJ had already left the studio, but I was able to ask him real quickly. Somebody wanted to know, is it possible for Skills to know what type of data is to be taken? In other words, what data format is to be used for each lesson? I'm not entirely sure that I completely understand the question, but what CJ said is that right now the information that it will take is when it is a correct or an incorrect answer, and when the level of prompt that is given in order to get the correct answer. So all of which is very important data and very useful to parents, very useful to teachers, very useful to therapists and people who are designing the program. And data that is sometimes a handful to take, especially for parents. I just love the idea that I think back we'd have a therapist, and then it would be lunchtime, right? And we would be doing lunch, and then when I'm cleaning up the lunch dishes, my son would have, some downtime in which to play, which there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But how awesome would it have been to have, during that playtime, have handed him the iPad and known that the things that he was working on during that break were things that he just had worked on in his session, but in a format that was really reinforcing to him. I think that this is a remarkable direction in which to go, and I'm excited for all of us. And for those of you who have early, young children, and you write in and you say to us, how can I build on language skills? This is a great app. If you have an older child who you're trying to work on both receptive and expressive skills, it is perfectly okay to use, there's no age limit, right? If your child finds it reinforcing, let them do it. If it's not reinforcing to them, we can wait until you can put your own, take your own pictures and put those labels in. But I found it reinforcing, right? So I don't know. Try it. It's free. You really can't go wrong when it's free, right? So we thank you so much for writing in that question, and we thank Christopher, I started to say CJ, Christopher, for being here, and I don't know why I just got that page. Here we go. I wanted to take a second to go over your answers to the question of the day. We asked you today, what is your child's favorite activity? And I'm going to go and look, because I know I was at the breakfast table and my husband said, here's a child that, we should introduce Jem to because he likes the same thing. And we were commenting, and there it is, playing video games and Legos, somebody wrote in. Very typical for a lot of our young kids on the spectrum. Somebody else said watching videos. Someone said looking at his flashcards and watching YouTube, specifically alphabets and phonics. He's 7 years old. Might like the Camp Discovery. Someone else says playing hide and go seek. He always hides behind the living room drapes, LOL. My mom used to say that was my favorite game as a child. And that I would, pull the curtain back and go, surprise! Another comment, throwing the colored aluminum paper up in the air and watching it fly down like Aladdin's carpet. I don't know what colored aluminum paper is. This is very interesting to me. But if that's what they love doing, that's what they love doing. Someone else said playing his games on the iPad and reading. Love when they love to read. Again, another person who says anything to do with shapes, looking at shapes, matching shapes, finding shapes, stacking shapes, drawing shapes. Wow, that's exciting. Here's one that I love, playing ABA therapy, recreating school class. Anything that is academic is so reinforcing for her. Sometimes she works to play with sequence cards alone, to write on the whiteboard, etc. She is too funny to watch. She will be a great teacher. I agree. And somebody else who says lying on mom's bed with mom and my daughter reading to me as we snuggle together. Absolutely love that. My son's favorite activity is to not only to play a video game, but he wants to be in a level where he can create it. That's the new thing. It's, what he wants to customize it. He wants to have the ability to go in and move the pieces around. And, it's interesting when we look at what our kids' favorite activities are, because that's where we start to see that glimmer of what Temple Grandin always talks about finding out what is this kid's particular unique passion and then capitalizing on it. It used to be a long time ago, there was a video, a commercial that would show, and I have no idea what the commercial was advertising, right? But they showed kids who earlier in life were doing an activity and then what it turned into. So I remember there was one kid that they showed him sitting in his parents' kitchen banging with wooden spoons on pots, and then it showed him later on being a drummer, a professional drummer. And I think it's just fascinating how these passions can turn into lifelong vocations. And and how I agree with Temple, how important it is that we feed that passion. So for the little girl who loves to write on the whiteboard, I think it's right, Mom, she's going to be an incredible teacher. And I can't wait to see, is the person who loves shapes going to turn into an architect? It's amazing the things that these things can morph into. Really, really remarkable. And with Jem, you know, we've learned over the years that he loves to see how things work, but he wants to change it. And, you know, so he wants to invent, and he, you know, says that he wants to be a rocket engineer. And we'll see. I know it's definitely going to have something to do with building and mechanics, because the child has been interested in that. We never got to keep a flashlight until very recently because he would take it apart. The taking apart didn't quite, it just now is starting to morph into the put back together. But he was still in the investigation stage of, I'm going to take it apart to see how in fact it works, and loves to watch. If you have not yet watched on, I think it's on the Discovery Channel, it might be on the Learning Channel, how it works or how it's made? I think they have both. Really, really remarkable shows that we could sit and watch endlessly, especially when my child was younger, because he wanted to know, how do they make Legos? How do they make roller skates? How do they make a boat? All of those things, fascinating to him. And we feed those passions, right? We absolutely do. All right, we are going to take a break to look at the A Word. This is an ongoing documentary being made here at the Center for Autism and Related Disorders. Coming up in this next hour, 3 really incredible guests. We're going to be joined by Rosalind Picard a little bit shortly after the A Word. She is part of that think tank that's at MIT, that they have an initiative for autism, communication, technology. Really, really important. We're thrilled to be able to talk with her. We're going to have BCBA Angela Persicke talking about research having to do with technology. And we are also going to have John Coyne from Goodby, Silverstein and Partners, who's going to be with us to talk about a really important film that I hope you guys will watch on YouTube. It is called I Want to Say, and it's about technology and autism, and how when you put these two things together, the sky's the limit. Sky's the limit. So let's take a look at the A Word, and we'll be back at watch this.
I know a cute little blue-eyed boy, and his name is Jack. Jack Riley. He got a big, warm, blue-eyed soul that makes your heart beat fast. Yes, I do. I say Jack, Jack, Jack is my buddy. Jack, Jack, Jack is my buddy. Everybody around is so down with Jack.
What do you want to eat?
Can I have corn on the cob and some turkey?
I want to eat anything else.
Yeah, I want dessert now.
A few months ago, Jessica and Jack Riley began doing functional pretend play, where they played with toys functionally. For example, placing pretend food on a plate and then pretending to eat it. Recently, they began practicing socio-dramatic play, where they each take on a different role. They've been playing restaurant, where they take turns being the waiter, cook, and customer.
Say hi, welcome to my restaurant.
Hi, welcome to my restaurant.
Hi.
I want to eat.
Good job. I would like to eat some oranges and a hot dog, please. Hello, welcome to my restaurant. What would you like to eat today?
I want to eat hot dogs and drinky burgers.
You want a hot dog, a burger, anything to drink?
Milk.
Milk?
Now that he understands the different roles, they're going on an outing to a real restaurant to see if he can implement what he's learned through play.
Jack Riley, where are we going?
To the restaurant.
To the what?
Restaurant.
Restaurant.
You're not saying the word, really.
We're going to the restaurant.
Thank you.
Come on, Suzanne.
Okay, I'm coming. Have you gone to a restaurant with Jack Riley recently?
Not recently. It's been quite a while, actually, so we've been sort of excited because we haven't gone since he's been sort of playing restaurant at home.
I'm going to ask the lady some pie.
Here's breakfast. These are good breakfasts right here.
And there's all of us at the top of that.
Those are burgers and pizza and stuff, but we want to have breakfast, I think.
And there's mud and ice cream on the pizza.
restaurant so far?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's coffee that you want to drink.
Daddy wants a drink. What do you want? What do you want?
I want a piece of pie.
I think we're not going to have pie. We'll come back for dinner and have pie, okay?
Good morning. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Fine. Thank you. Can I get your drinks?
Can I have a? I want a blueberry waffles, please.
Good order, Jack Riley. You ordered all by yourself.
Appreciate it.
And I wanted that soaked tea.
Thank you.
Yummy, yummy. Real blueberries. Look at this. Special order.
It has yogurt on it.
Say thank you, Jack.
Oh no, that's even better than yogurt.
Say thank you.
Nice to meet you.
Great appetite.
Yeah.
Wow. I couldn't even finish all that. You are a growing boy.
Hey, can we sit better? Can we sit better, buddy?
Hey, mister, I don't see your face. There it is.
There you go.
Just FYI, this is totally typical for
Do you want to eat more or do you want to be done?
Okay. Do it, please.
What's he going to do? What's he going to do?
Looking for next time, Jack Riley.
Welcome back. That was the A Word. This is the ongoing documentary being made at the Center for Autism and Related Disorders following a little boy as he goes through his early intervention. And you know what's interesting to me is when we look at our kids on the autism spectrum, and in the beginning, I think for a lot of us as parents, we look at our kids and we don't notice the differences between them and their neurotypically developing peers. Part of it, we refer to it all the time, you know, the river in Egypt denial that we like to float on for a while. And then, of course, when we get to the point where we can't deny it anymore, somebody brings it to our attention, we go and we get a diagnosis, and then we become submerged and we look at our kids, unfortunately, in a different way. We look at everything and we start to wonder, okay, is that autism, or is that who this child is, or is that something that's neurotypical? You get lost in this world of I don't know anymore, right? And as our children get better, it would seem like it would get easier, and sometimes it doesn't. There are still things that my child is 10 and that I, have an expectation, and then somebody else will point out to me, my child who does not have autism does that. And it's such a gift when somebody tells us, because I think at a certain point we lose perspective on that. I'm someone who was around kids a lot, so I had a lot of reference points, and my husband wasn't. He hadn't been around a lot of kids in his life, and certainly when we had our child, he hadn't been around kids in quite a while. He had 2 nephews who he saw from time to time, but they were a little bit older. So I think it's tougher sometimes if you're not around kids to have a reference point. But even if you have been, it can be very difficult to look at and go, okay, I don't know. And what I'm learning here on the show is that I need to look at behavior as behavior. I do think it's essential that we don't have our expectations too high. And I think that that's something that even my friends who have those neurotypically developing children have difficulty with. My friend who had a 4-year-old girl and was saying, I just don't understand. She's not keeping her room neat. And several people pointed out, well, because a 4-year-old girl doesn't know how to do that. That is a skill you're going to have to teach. And good luck, because, there are 16-year-old girls who don't know how to keep their room neat. But it is something that you can teach and that needs to be taught. Unfortunately, though, at 4, you're not going to teach the whole skill. It's not age appropriate. At 16, absolutely. Absolutely. And keeping that kind of perspective on things, very, very helpful. I will say that's one of the other benefits of skills is that it will automatically leave out any skills that are not age appropriate for your child. It will never ever encourage you to teach a lesson that is not age appropriate for your child. Speaking of which, somebody just wrote in a question and said, is Skills on iPad now? What is the name of the application? Skills is not on iPad right now, but Camp Discovery, you can, it is a way that you can be playing that game and you can put in your Skills ID code and have it sync up with your Skills. But Skills itself is not on the iPad yet. But what a great thing. We're moving in that direction. All is well. All right, we are going to take a break. I am not sure because we're still trying to figure out if we have time. She is calling. Okay, so we're going to take a break and we are going to come back with Roz Picard. Very excited to be able to talk to her. Stick with us.
Hi everyone. In the cold winter months, it can be really nice to sit down and enjoy a nice warm apple crisp. And thanks to Breads from Anna, we can make one for you gluten and yeast free. So let's go over what we're going to need. To make the filling, you're going to need 1.5 teaspoons of ground cinnamon, 1/2 teaspoon of nutmeg, 1 tablespoon of fresh lemon juice, 7 cups of Granny Smith apples, and 3 tablespoons of Breads from Anna pie crust. For your topping, you're going to need 1 cup of rolled oats, 1/3 cup of brown sugar, 3/4 of a cup of Breads from Anna pie crust mix, 3/4 of a cup of butter melted, 1 teaspoon ground cinnamon, 1 tablespoon vanilla, and 2 tablespoons of water. Don't forget to preheat your oven to 350 degrees. So now let's cut some apples. We're going to peel and slice 6 apples. So as you're cutting your apples, make sure you add your lemon juice to make sure that they don't brown and oxidize. So once all my apples are cut and sliced, I'm going to go ahead and add the nutmeg, cinnamon, and the pie crust mix. We're just going to stir these together. So we've got a 13 by 9, and we're just going to spray this with a little bit of grapeseed oil. And then we're going to pour our apples into the dish. And to make our topping, we're just going to combine the rest of the ingredients in a small bowl. All right, that looks pretty good. We're just going to pour this evenly over the top of the apples, and we should be good to go. All right, this is ready to bake, 30 to 35 minutes at 350 degrees. It's been 30 minutes, so our crisp should be all done. All right, it's pretty hot, so you would probably want to let it sit for a little while, but we're gonna go ahead and serve up a slice here. To learn how you can win free mix from Breads from Anna, visit our Facebook page at facebook.com/autismlive. See you soon.
Welcome back to Autism Live. We have a very special guest joining us via Skype. It is Rosalind Picard, and she is a professor at MIT, at the Media Lab at MIT. We're so thrilled to have her with us because it's a very busy week there. Rosalind, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Pleasure.
And maybe you can tell our viewers at home a little bit about the MIT Media Lab and the kinds of things that you're involved in.
Sure. I'm a professor here at the MIT Media Lab in Cambridge, Massachusetts. I direct research in affective computing, that's with an A, and we focus on building new technologies that help with the measurement and communication of emotional information. This, at first blush, sounds like things to do with faces and voices, and it does, but it also turns out to be involved in things that affect our general health as well.
And it's really remarkable, especially when we take into consideration individuals who are on the autism spectrum and how they can benefit from it. And in fact, you have an entire initiative there that has to do with technology, communication, and autism, correct?
Yes, yes. We've been extremely interested in making technologies that help people who have various kinds of communication challenges.
And you have a TED Talk that's really remarkable. I can't imagine how exciting it is to do a TED Talk and to be able to share the information that you have. And in your TED Talk, you talk about these bracelets that can measure emotion, correct?
Yes. Oh, goodness. I should probably show you one. Mine's on my ankle right now. I'll stick my leg up in front of the camera. That would be a mess.
So are you taking data right now as you're speaking to us about your emotional state?
Yes, I've been collecting it all week. Here's one of our wrist sensors, actually.
Okay.
Right here.
Real
measures three things. It measures skin conductance, accelerometer, and temperature from the surface of the skin. And together these start to give a picture of your both your activity and a little bit about your environment and your autonomic stress.
Yeah, and you have started to use this in conjunction with individuals who are on the spectrum while they're having therapy, correct?
Yeah, in fact, it was originally individuals on the spectrum that inspired us to go back to this technology and try to make it more of a communication tool. People on the spectrum were telling us that, we had heard that, they have trouble understanding emotion, and many of them were saying, well, actually, it's our emotions that you're misunderstanding, and we could use a little bit more help being better understood. So in our spirit of always developing technology, co-developing it with the user, right? Not trying to pretend we know what they need, but wanting to really truly understand what's needed, and really trying to listen, and to many people who were non-speaking but were typing or finding other ways to let us know what they wanted. They said they needed to be better understood when they were stressed or experiencing sensory overload or experiencing, problems with environments that other people weren't noticing. So I thought we can measure that. We can show people that.
And then you can change things according to it, as can't you? Because especially for our kids that aren't as verbal, not as vocal, sometimes we don't know what's happening. But this gives us a key to understand.
It gives us a piece of the missing information. I have to say, too, it doesn't necessarily tell you how to fix the problem. It will tell you, for example, a person goes in a room and the signal goes up, and then they leave the room and it goes down, and they go in the room and it goes up. And it kind of tells you, hey, there's probably something about this room that's causing this. And then you can start debugging it. Is it the fluorescent lights? Is it that person over there? Is it the smell? Again, we don't tell you the actual cause of the stress or the what to do to solve it, but we tell you that something significant changed here, and maybe that person has no other way to let you know that.
It's clues, and those are so valuable. So we're going to take a short break, but when we come back, I'm going to ask if you would tell us about what this has helped to inform you about with autism and epilepsy and seizures, if you wouldn't mind. So we're going to take a break and be right back. Stick with us.
What drives this signal? The skin conductance is driven by the autonomic nervous system, sympathetic nervous system response. Your autonomic nervous system has two main branches, the sympathetic and the parasympathetic. The sympathetic can be thought of kind of like stepping on the gas in the car. It revs your heart up. It causes the skin conductance to increase. The parasympathetic causes the heart to decrease. Sympathetic is thought of as fight or flight, parasympathetic as rest and digest. Almost all the organs are innervated by both the sympathetic and the parasympathetic, except the skin, which gets the pure sympathetic, which makes it ideal for us measuring this fight or flight response. Now, I became interested in measuring this response when I started working a lot with people on the autism spectrum who are non-speaking. The most heartbreaking stories that I hear from these, from the families and individuals themselves when they later acquire the ability to speak, is that the changes that were worst were when they got kicked out of school or shipped off to an institution, removed from learning opportunities and social opportunities. What caused that to happen? Usually it was a meltdown or a series of meltdowns. And the meltdowns, like adult tantrums, appear to come from nowhere. One moment the person seemed calm and relaxed. The next moment they might have become injurious to themselves or others. So they seem very unpredictable and uncontrollable. Now, as we undertook the privilege of getting to know some individuals who could later communicate, they told us that these meltdowns never came from nowhere, that in fact that they were always preceded by increasing stress and frustration. They couldn't understand why people couldn't see what was bugging them. So this made me think, wow, what if we could enable them, even though they can't communicate, to signal out their increasing stress and frustration? But to do that required a device that is shown on the left here, a classic galvanic skin response, skin conductance, sympathetic nervous system measure that involved a lot of wires and boxes that was uncomfortable to wear in daily life. So my team at MIT went through lots of iterations until we came up with a device that could be worn robustly on the wrist and gather data in real life. This has just been commercialized by Affectiva, and I'm pleased to say is finally available as a product for people to gather and communicate this information in the real world outside the lab. Here's the first example of 7 days of data that I saw from a student at MIT wearing the skin conductance sensor on his wrist. And the first thing that jumped out here was there's a lot of studying, and it's very activating. Studying and lab work, in fact, sort of to the discouragement of we professors, is much more arousing than any of the classroom activity. We also saw these huge peaks that were happening during sleep, which puzzled us in the first place. We just expected sleep to be flat. Generally, as we did further polysomnography and teamed up with some expert sleep research on this, we found that these peaks tend to occur during slow wave sleep or deep sleep. And we're now looking at the relation of those to sleep quality and memory and learning. Here's an example of a girl on the autism spectrum where she's able to communicate out her arousal level using this sensor. Here she's wearing it one on each ankle, so you'll see two signals streaming across the bottom. And she's wearing it while she's undergoing an ordinary occupational therapy session.
Hold on to the string.
This is 45 minutes of an ordinary session here. And you'll see, it peaked here. She had a little bit of a meltdown here, got in a ball pit, calmed down, peaked here, calmed down. What you see up here in blue is right now, this window here. The right edge is what you're seeing in the video. And we see that it peaked as she climbed on this swing, but as she starts swinging, as that rhythmic activity kicks in, it has this nice decaying exponential. We see for many people on the autism spectrum when they rock or do these repetitive movements, that can be very calming for them. They're not just doing that to be difficult or something. It can have a very important regulatory effect. In fact, I've noticed an increasing number of rocking chairs cropping up in airports since 9/11, and they're almost always taken, at least at Boston Logan. I think that's a healthy sign.
Welcome back. And so what you just saw was a segment of the TED Talk that Rosalind Picard did. And you can see that entire TED Talk, and it's, believe me, it's worthwhile. There's some really exciting things that you talk about in the TED Talk, including talking about seizure activity in an individual who has autism. Would you be willing to tell us a little bit about what you discovered?
Yes, one of our kids who was wearing the sensors, again, just to send out a signal about what was elevating his autonomic stress, had a peak that was just off the charts on one wrist. He had sensors on both wrists and not on the other wrist, which really bugged me. Usually the two sides go up together. And not only did he have a peak, but it was an extraordinarily humongous peak that made me think the sensor was broken. And after zooming in on the data and coming to the conclusion that the data didn't look broken, it just looked huge, I called up his brother at home, and long story short, I found out he had had a seizure. And then I called up a doctor at Children's Hospital, and, Dr. Madsen, my name's Rosalind Picard, is it possible that you could have a huge sympathetic nervous system surge right before a seizure? And because we thought it had happened quite a bit in advance of the seizure based on the timing that the student had written down. And the doctor said, probably not well in advance of the seizure, but probably at the time the seizure starts. So we got IRB approval and enrolled 90 kids at Children's Hospital in the study. These were all children in the ward being monitored 24/7 with the EEG, with ECG, with EDA, electrodermal activity, and video. And doctors were scoring the timing of the seizures and the type of seizure blind to our data. Separately, we were processing the wrist data, and then we put them together, and we found that all of the generalized tonic-clonic seizures, also called grand mal seizures, had significant skin conductance responses. And 86% of the complex partial seizures had skin conductance responses that were more than 2 standard deviations above the pre-seizure period. So this was a very unexpected finding that some significant brain event would show up with the wristband.
Wow, really remarkable. And I can't wait to see how all this technology, all the different ways that it's going to help to inform us and how we can better help our kids. It's very exciting what you're doing. It's very cutting edge. And I have to say, as a parent, I want to thank you so much. I always use the expression, thank goodness that brighter minds than mine are working on these kinds of things. And I feel like I met the face of that today.
Well, you're the brightest about your own child.
Well, that is always in question.
That was the greatest that mattered.
I always say I'm not an expert in autism. I pretend to be an expert in my own child, but even that is in question from day to day. But I thank you so much for taking the time. I know you've got visitors from around the world there this week, right?
Yes.
And that we promised we would only take up a few minutes of your time, but I thank you so much, and I hope that in the future we can ask you to come back when you've got more time to talk about some of the different things that you're doing research on.
Would love to. Thanks for your show.
And also, as we're leaving, where can people go to find out more information about what's happening at the Media Lab?
Yes, media.mit.edu is the Media Lab website, and I'm at affect, affect.media.mit.edu.
Thank you so much for being with us, and I hope the rest of your week goes wonderfully. We know that it's a very exciting time right now where you are because of the World Series.
Yes, very exciting. Thank you.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Take care. Cheers.
What an amazing woman, and doing some really incredible work. We'll look forward to hearing more about what comes out of this initiative. Autism, technology, and communication. Really exciting. Stick with us. We're going to be back with BCBA Angela Persicke.
When Maddie was diagnosed, I'll be honest, I was very ignorant on what autism was. I knew that autism was basically something that hit boys at the age of 2 to 3. They shut down, and sometimes you think of the typical Rain Man movie. And with Maddie, she was doing all the same signs and symptoms of a typical child with autism spectrum disorder.
Stand up.
She didn't even acknowledge us coming into the room. She had barely any eye contact. She didn't interact with her sisters. She didn't really do anything. She just basically lined up her toys, and that was about it. We have a team of 7 volunteers, or 8 now. We have 8 volunteers, including my husband and I. And I'm the team leader, and so I do all the curriculum and get everything ready each week.
Jana was downstairs until 11 o'clock at night working on curriculum, going through 2 different textbooks. And then we, as a group, meet on Monday nights, and we would go through what the curriculum was from Jana. And a lot of times we would go, well, how exactly do you do that? How do you sit her at the table and do this trial base? Well, what Skills has done for us, it's taken that away from Jana trying to figure out the curriculum for one. She can go down, or even our laptop, and she can sit down, and through all these questions, it comes up with the different programs.
At least for me, it was a relief off my shoulders. I was worried that I might be missing something, missing a curriculum that maybe she needs to know, where Skills, they have every possible thing your child needs to know from 0 to 7. They have a program for that.
What noise is this?
Every program that we did with her, I knew it was specific for what she needed to learn. Because before Skills, it was a lot of, okay, well, is that really age appropriate for a 2-year-old? You know, because it's not generalized. It's anywhere from 0 to 7. This is what your child needs to know in most manuals you'll find. But for this, okay, yep, she should be learning this. And no, she's not 4 yet. She doesn't need to know that yet.
We are so fortunate that Jana was able to attend a conference put on by CARD that opened the door for Skills, and that there's no looking back for us.
We started using the program in November, and it seemed like by January something just clicked, and she has completely kind of came out of her fog that she was in for quite a while.
I have never read a documented case on any child that has not benefited anything from applied behavior analysis. And now with this new skills and being, like the E version of ABA, I can't imagine that it doing anything harmful to their child. It's nothing but exponential growth for us.
To see her now, it just blows us away. I mean, we call her our little miracle child because in 7 months' time, she's just blossomed into this normal, functioning child. And suddenly, we joke about it all the time, like suddenly we have twins.
If you're even thinking about doing it, do it. Because the absolute worst thing you could do is do nothing at all. And even if you use this program and it's just a single mom or a single dad working in the evenings with their child, this program is going to benefit them. It's going to show you where they are, it's going to show you where they need to go, and it's going to show you what skills and how to get there. It is an online book on how to help recover your child.
Welcome back to Autism Live. In our cavalcade of wonderful guests today, we have with us BCBA Board Certified Behavior Analyst Angela Persicke. Welcome back to Autism Live.
I'm glad to be here.
And we call this segment Breaking It Down with Angela because frequently we take stuff and we break it down into smaller increments to see how we can make progress. But we've been talking about technology all this week, and you had some research that you wanted to share with us. So tell us, what do you have?
Yes, well, recently, earlier this week, there was a publication that was released to the public on teaching individuals social skills, and these are more adolescents, teenagers with high-functioning autism or Asperger's in a group setting using video models on iPads.
Cool.
So previous to this, there's been inconsistent results as far as group types of instruction for teaching social skills. But this study had really positive results in which each individual had an iPad with videos of different ways to engage with others, initiate conversations, and maintain conversations, and a bunch of different social skills like that. And they each had their own iPad, watched these videos, and then had a chance to practice with each other.
Wow.
Which is, it makes sense that once you're learning the social skills, you have a group to actually practice these social skills with, but it was more of a structured setting. And a lot of times the feedback they were given was not in the moment what they should do differently, but you didn't actually do exactly as the video showed you to do, so watch it again, and then we'll try it again. Okay. So they were really taking advantage of the videos themselves instead of the person facilitating the group. And so there are a lot of implications for this for places that don't have a lot of resources.
Yeah.
To have multiple people leading these groups, they could do it based on these videos and then facilitate a larger group interaction where social skills are being taught. And not only did the individuals learn these skills, but it maintained over like 3 months after the videos were faded.
Wow.
So a really cool, great study. One thing that the research, another recent review in the last couple of years has shown is that video modeling is the primary method in which technology is used for teaching various social skills. And so there is still a lot of work that needs to be done on other means of using technology in these type of settings. But for video modeling, it does take a lot of time up front to actually tape people engaging in these social skills and everything like that. But it seems like a method that is effective and can work for groups. And research has shown that individuals with autism tend to attend more to videos, and so that's why this means is being implemented.
Really,
so
really
cool.
remarkable. And if people want to know more about this study, who is the study done by so that we can tell them where to go to see it?
This one is by Plavnik, Sam, Hume and Odom, and it is in the journal Exceptional Children in 2013, so it was just released, and we posted on our Autism Research Group Facebook page a link to this article earlier this week.
Okay, so Autism Research Group on Facebook, you can go there and get the link to that and other research, quite honestly, that will be meaningful to you. Really remarkable study. Thank you so much for sharing it, because as I said earlier, we get so many people who will write in and say, how can we work on social skills? Why isn't there stuff for teenagers? This is so desperately needed, and now we know here's something that's effective. Really remarkable. We're going to take a short break, and we're going to come back more with Angela Persicke after these messages. Stick with us.
Hi guys, welcome back to Smarty. For this month, I figured we're going to do a super special portrait that is in the theme of October, which means spooky eyes that follow you as you walk around. In this activity, you and your child are going to work on emotions and socio-dramatic play. So let's get started. The materials you'll be needing are a camera, a ping pong ball, X-Acto blade, tape, and a marker. And if your kids are up to it, props and costumes. Now let's take some photos. It's a great time to work on emotions and socio-dramatic play. Let's get our props.
See all the colors in the sky tonight. It's time to let the sunshine hide.
Once you finish your photo shoot with your child, select one of the photos and print it out on a large piece of paper. Now that you've selected your photo, you're going to take an X-Acto blade and just cut out the eyes from it. This part of the activity is definitely only for the adults. Now that you've finished cutting out the eyes, what we're going to do next is take a ping pong ball and cut it in half. You'll see why in just a moment. So with the ping pong balls, we're going to create the illusion of the following eyes. So what you're going to do is take a marker and you're going to make a dot in the very, very center. You're going to want to make it like the same size of what the iris was in the photo. Now that the ping pong balls are done, I'm just going to tape them to the back of the photograph. So does it look like she's following you? Well, I hope you enjoyed this activity for Smarty. Until next time, craft on, guys.
Can you see me flying by your side?
Welcome back to Autism Live. In the studio with us right now, we have Angela Persicke. She's a board-certified behavior analyst. She has extensive experience working with our kiddos on the autism spectrum. She is also the assistant director of the Autism Research Group, which we were just mentioning in the last segment. Autism Research Group is, the entire purpose of it is to create and carry out research that's meaningful to families that have an individual on the autism spectrum.
Exactly.
So we love that, and we mentioned that you can go to their Facebook page and check out the study that we were just talking about and other studies. They you know, if you like them, and there's a way, I know I subscribe to a feed so that I get to see things when you guys put it on my Facebook. Really remarkable place to go. You also have a website that has information, and people can take a survey about what kind of research they would like to see on the website.
Yes, we have a parent survey on there that really asks you what you would like us to study. And then also we have a publication page where you can request any of the publications that any of our researchers have published.
Really remarkable. And even, you know, I know in the past we also have Dr. Jonathan Tarbox, who's the director of the Autism Research Group, on Fridays. And there are times when you have to go into an IEP meeting and you're having a discussion, a friendly discussion with people who don't know about the efficacy of ABA, and they're, you know, you're fighting for FAPE, free appropriate public education, and you need to mount the argument, we need to be doing ABA because that's what's shown to be effective, and effective is appropriate. Where is your research to show what you want to do is appropriate? Because they don't have any that shows that theirs is appropriate. And you need some studies to go in with that. If you need those studies, Autism Research Group can also, if you write in a request, they will help you to get connected with those researchers so that you can get access to those papers as well. I know I needed that for an IEP back when, and it made a huge difference. Being prepared and going in and saying, here are my studies, where are yours? And then there's a long pause where you hear cricket, 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 and then your child gets the help and intervention that they need. It's a shortened version of what happens, but it's effective. You get my drift. In any case, I wanted to ask Angela a question that we had written in. Somebody wanted to know, I need help trying to teach my son how to use an iPad. He only goes to school 3 hours a day and is 11 years old. So, we've been talking all week long about technology and how reinforcing it can be, but you know that old expression about you got to bring the horse to the water or the water to the horse, because until our kids know how reinforcing it is, it can be a very frustrating thing for a parent where you go, how do I get them to like this thing?
Yes.
So you've got some suggestions for us.
Yes, I do.
Okay.
If this is your first experience of ever introducing an iPad to your child, and just this little box thing alone is not very interesting in and of itself, start by just playing a video, your child's favorite show, anything like that, or music that your child likes, on the iPad, and just handing it to
So it's like
child.
A little mini TV screen.
Exactly. And
love
you
that.
can begin by just doing things like that, and then start to teach your child that when he or she presses on the icon, the video plays. Or a favorite game. There are a lot of really fun, easy games that just involve tapping on different things, and those you can teach your child to engage in really fairly easily, because they are made to be reinforcing and fun. And so find games that your child likes and start with those, and then you can start to fade out to actually unlocking the iPad and moving to different spots on the iPad, and then of course over time you can, if your child doesn't have another type of communication system, you can start to teach your child to use a type of PEX app or other type of pictures to request items on the iPad. But really, you want to start by making the iPad reinforcing in and of itself for what it is able to do. And so begin just by using it for videos, music, and games.
And it is amazing how quickly our kids get excited and will take to it, and then they explain things to us. When we were trying to get Jem to play the computer, everybody said, oh, you must get your child on the computer because, kids with autism, they do so well on the computer. And I would say that it was a good month that the mouse thing made no sense to him whatsoever. The fact that this thing made that thing do something, he just didn't get it. And I bought a couple of games that I thought would be reinforcing, and the thing that got him was going on he loved to watch the Mickey Mouse Clubhouse show on, I think it's on the Disney Channel. And we went on the website, and they had interactive games. And they were crazy, ridiculous, silly games. There was one game where Goofy had shoes that he had dropped everywhere, and you had to take this little lasso cursor and take it and put it on one shoe and then match it to another shoe. And that he wanted to figure out the mouse, because he understood that if you shook this, the lasso moved. I couldn't get him to do it with anything else. Forget it. But, and that, then once he got it, I came back and he had changed the font on my computer so that everything would look different. And I said, what did he do? What did he do? Right? It was the beginning of the end. So, very quickly, when they see how reinforcing it is, they figure other things out and they'll start playing with the buttons. I think they're much more inquisitive than my generation. Do you know? And then Katie barred the door. Make sure that you turn off the ability to purchase within an app on your computer, on your device, whether it's an iPad or it's an Android or it's anything else under the sun. Go into the settings and make sure you turn off the ability for in-app purchase. Otherwise, you will come back and we will be crying. Trust me. Well, I think that's remarkable advice. I think that's a great way to get a kid excited about an iPad, and we do want our kids to be excited about iPads and devices, right?
Yes, and that's the great thing about these devices, as opposed, especially in the form of communication, as opposed to some of the other options out there for communication, because Almost everybody these days has a phone or an iPad, and so if your child is sitting there watching something on an iPad or using an iPad for something, it does not make the child stand out and look different from peers. And so even when we go back to using it to teach social skills, your child could sit there and watch a video about social skills, maybe even when he's out with peers, and it might not even appear that he's doing anything.
Yeah, and not only that, I think it's a social bridge. If I go to a PTA meeting and I got to bring my child and I want him to be entertained, we bring a phone or we bring an iPad, and he goes and sits, and then all the kids come over and say, "What are you playing?" And suddenly he's having conversations and he's playing with them. It's a social starter now. It's even if we're in line at the grocery store and a kid is playing, he'll say, "Hey, what are you playing?" And then he starts a conversation with them, or if it's vice versa, the other way. We did have a viewer write in about the study that they want to know, "Hi, Angela, is this a specific video company that was making the video modeling, or how do you do video modeling?" Because if they want to do it on their own, what suggestions do you have about video modeling?
In this study, the researchers created the videos themselves, and what they did is they had teenagers engage in various social skills, or teenagers or adults engage in these various social skills, and more of a step-by-step if you want to use video modeling, but you want to have it also as like the whole piece of what it looks like when it's very appropriate. And they also, in this, they for every target social interaction they created 3 different videos that to promote generalization of the skill, so the individuals weren't learning just rotely to engage in this one specific response. But there probably are companies out there that make videos for video modeling, but it's easy just for you to do yourself with a video camera at home, and you just engage in an appropriate interaction and then show that to your child. And then as the facilitator, you can help by prompting different behaviors, and then of course reinforcing them in the actual interaction.
Yeah, it's amazing how our kids learn through video, seeing another child do something, whether it's something we want them to do or something that we don't want them to do, and videotaping our kids and showing them that can sometimes be very effective too.
A really great thing that you can do with videos as well is because you can pause them at any point. You don't have to necessarily watch the whole thing. You can just watch a part of it and have your child practice that skill. But also you can pause them and ask the child, "What do you think is going to happen next?" So you focus on some cause and effect as well. So, "Oh, the person just said this. What do you think the other person will do or say?"
If there's a specific thing that you want to teach your child, there's so much on YouTube nowadays. Like if you want to teach, how do you say hello? I bet you could go onto YouTube and type in video modeling greetings or salutations or something like that, and you might find a whole host of things that you could use. But think about what is the skill you want to teach, and then go into YouTube to see if there are examples of it. Okay, well, thank you so much. Unfortunately, that's all the time we have for Angela today, because we have another guest coming up. We're going to be talking with John Coyne from Goodby, Silverstein and Partners about a documentary they were involved with making called "I Want to Say." And it's an amazing, amazing documentary showing kids on the spectrum and how they find their voice using technology. So we're going to be back with that, but we thank Angela so much for sharing this research with us and these answers. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
All right, so stick with us. We'll be right back to talk about "I Want to Say." Another parent wants to know, how do I find out that one thing that my kid is really good at?
Now, when they get older, they're going to kind of divide into 2 groups. You're going to have the kids that become verbal, and then you're going to have the kids that are nonverbal, got many more problems. Maybe they still have epilepsy or some other problem. And they kind of need different services. And the ones that get verbal, what we need to be doing with them is develop the area of strength. And that area of strength often will show up around 3rd or 4th grade, sometimes earlier. But my ability in art showed up when I was in 3rd and 4th grade, and it was always encouraged. And I was encouraged to do lots of different kinds of art. Otherwise, it would have just been endless horse heads. Mother would say to me, "Why don't you draw a picture of a beach or something else?" It's you want to broaden it out. If the kid's fixated on trains, let's teach reading with trains, math with trains. Tap into that fixation, but develop the area of strength. Some kids it's going to be art. Other kids it's going to be mathematics. So you got a 3rd grader who's smart in math, and he wants a 6th grade math book. Give him the 6th grade math book. Don't bore him with the baby stuff. But that kid's going to have trouble with reading, because the common thing is the uneven skills. And then you have the kids that are the history buffs, and these kids are often really good at writing skills. You tend to have uneven skills, but tap into their fixations and use those to motivate, but broaden. If he likes trains, just watching them, well, we're going to take that interest in trains to do some math with it, or maybe read about the history of the railroad. You know, tap into that motivation. One of the things I really want to talk about is we got to stretch these kids. I'm not talking about physically stretching them, mentally stretching them to do new things. I'm seeing too many kids that haven't learned how to shop, how to order food at McDonald's. So you start out, let's say it's ordering food at McDonald's or at Burger King. So you take them up there and they watch you order it. And then eventually you go in when the store's not busy, and they have to go up and order it while you're sitting at the table watching, and then you coach them. And then eventually they can go in the restaurant themselves. I can remember I was scared to go to the lumber yard alone and buy lumber. And Mother made me go. And she knew I could do it. I had bought lumber with her many times. But there's a tendency to want to have somebody else there when they do it, and they've got to learn how to do things alone. And you gradually have got to kind of push it. You've got to stretch them. And I'm seeing too many kids not learning basic skills. Saw a 19-year-old honor student that actually knows how to drive that had never shopped in the grocery store all by herself. That is just ridiculous. You know, you've got to stretch them. You push too hard, there can be panic. And the other thing is no surprises. No surprises. I knew all about the ranch long before I went there. I'd talked to Ann. But if you don't stretch these kids, they don't grow.
Welcome back to Autism Live. Joining us via Skype. At this moment in time, we only have audio, but we're hoping later on in the interview that we'll be able to bring you video also of John Coyne. John is from Goodby, Silverstein and Partners, and he is here today to talk with us about a really incredible documentary called I Want to Say. John, thank you so much, and welcome to Autism Live.
It is a pleasure to be here, and to be honest with you, I am a little camera shy, so this is actually working out to my advantage that you can't see me. So.
Well, we have the most amazing technical director in the world who is working on it right now, so I wouldn't be surprised if we get video of you eventually. But thrilled to have you here, and thrilled to be talking about this documentary. People can watch this for free on YouTube. It's called I Want to Say, and it's remarkable. John, tell us a little bit, for people who aren't familiar with the video, of what the video is about.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you, it's been a labor of love for us and a number of people actually involved in the project. And this actually started probably more than 4 years ago. Back when, before there were iPads, before there was kind of, the preponderance of touch technology that we all know about, we were working with a client, HP, was one of our major clients, Hewlett Packard, and they at the time actually were one of the innovators of touch technology. They had something called a Touch Smart, which was kind of like a big monitor screen that was touch enabled. And I have a very close friend of mine who actually, they're amazing people, started a school called the Hope Technology School. It's in Palo Alto, and it's a school that teaches inclusion. So it's typical kids in full-time classrooms with special needs children, many of which have autism. Autism is obviously a big deal here in the Bay Area in Silicon Valley. And the father of one of the kids there saw this technology and literally began thinking, this is what my son, who is severely autistic and was nonverbal, needed. And so they got a hold of this Touch Smart from HP and started working with it. And all of a sudden, the ability to communicate and his son just started coming to life in a way that they had never seen before. And it became clear to all of us that touch technology is going to help bridge the gap for people with autism who struggle to be verbal and are nonverbal. And at the time, A lot of the work, being done around autism, kind of had to do with finding cures and that sort of thing and raising money for cures, which are great. But we saw an opportunity to take people, we were focusing on children at the time, who are here, and to give them tools to live a richer, more fuller life. So we partnered with the Hope Technology School and with HP was our client, and we started this program. It was actually part of a broader program called Hacking Autism.
Yes.
And out of the Hacking Autism project came the film, I Want to Say.
Well, it is remarkable. In fact, we're going to pause for a minute and show the trailer from the film, and then we'll come back and talk some more with John. So take a look. This is I Want to Say.
Where's his light right here? It's right here. Oh, Brian, will you bring it over?
Howdy.
You're just gonna sit and talk and look at the camera, okay? Don't be nervous.
It's okay.
You need the stick?
Yeah, I got it. I didn't know how much.
Come over here, Brian.
Okay, let's get Gail out of the shot there.
This side. Do you need me to?
Yeah, if you guys can clear the frame. It's okay.
You need the stick?
Yeah, I got it. I didn't know how much.
Is the volume up? Yeah, volume's on. Okay.
Yep. Yep. Hi. I am excited.
What is autism is a very good question.
Welcome back. You just were seeing the very beginning of the film, I Want to Say, and John and I were just talking about how powerful this moment at the beginning of the film is. And you were saying, John, this was expected to be B-roll, but this beautiful little gem that encapsulates this world of needing to communicate and the joy of being able to communicate.
That's right. This literally was just setting up the shot for the film. The camera was running. You could tell we were just setting up, the camera and trying to get the framing right. Meanwhile, the story was unfolding in front of us, and you could see the anticipation on that young man's face, Jonathan Ewell, who was getting ready to, begin to tell his story.
Yeah.
And it was very powerful. And we said, you know what, this is the way to open the film.
It encapsulates the entire thing, from the hand of the aide on his shoulder and pointing out where the camera is, and the love that is clearly there. The whole moment is just absolutely luscious. And there are many other moments in the film. It's only 27 minutes long, but it's filled with inspiration, and I think really is important for all of us to see. I want to talk briefly, John, about there's a moment in the film when a doctor says, when I was being trained in the world of autism, I was told that these people who cannot speak have no thoughts, there is no intelligence, this was just what we were told. And we get to see even the transformation with the doctor when he realizes, and there's a beautiful, beautiful moment when he says, now I know, and we've realized that each and every single person that we spend the time with and give them communication skills, the way to communicate, we see that there is a world there. There are thoughts and there is intelligence.
Yeah, that's very powerful. And that's Dr. David Traver. And he does say it well. When he was trained in medical school, that he was taught there was no, what you see is what you get. In many cases, as you know, many autistic people with severe autism struggle to communicate. And
Yes.
the going assumption in the world around them, not in their own heads, but in the world around them, is that they're not intelligent. They can't communicate. They're not capable. of that. And what's been so amazing with technology and all these wonderful tablets that have come on since we started this project is it literally is giving people a voice. And there are several moments in this film, if you know, when you see it, where there are mothers saying, we discovered our son that day, we discovered our daughter that day.
Yeah.
They finally were able to use technology to start revealing what was always there on the inside all along.
Yeah, the mom of the, I think she's 14-year-old, is it Katie? I think in the film that the mom says, she began to type, and the first time she began to type, she typed for 3 hours. And she said, I sat down and had a conversation because I had been waiting 14 years to talk to my daughter. And there was a lot to say. We had a lot to talk about. It's very emotional. It's very moving. It's very well done. And I want to encourage people, go to YouTube. You can watch it for free. I want to say best 27 minutes you can spend today. And John, I have to say how impressed I am, because we mentioned that you're from Goodby, Silverstein and Partners, that you are not a therapy provider. You are a top-level advertising agency.
We are, and we are fundamentally, though, at the heart of what we do is we are storytellers.
Yeah.
And this was a band of us that gathered together here, on their own time, on weekends, at night, and worked on this project with an amazing production company, Bodega Films, who put just as much effort into it and more. And they did it because they felt these stories needed to be told, because really it's a story of hope. And what's been so powerful for us is that families who have seen this film, who, we live here in Silicon Valley, that's where I am, I'm in San Francisco. So we're surrounded by technology. I feel like, we have a very clear idea that technology can do anything, but there are many people all over this country and all over the world who just weren't even aware that there's technology that their children and their autistic adults can be interacting with that would open them up and give them a voice to communicate. And this film really, some of the most gratifying things we heard back were from families who just said, I didn't even know that I could be trying this. And it's very powerful.
It is. It's very powerful. I'm very proud of you guys. You are excellent storytellers, and this story is told really well, and it's a service to my community, and I thank you and commend you.
Oh, it's a pleasure. We're very, very passionate about it. And then one of the amazing things is, as we all know, the autistic rate, is just so great. Everybody is touched by this.
Absolutely.
Everybody has somebody, knows somebody. And we had no trouble getting people excited to work on this because everybody felt so personally vested in doing this to help others.
Well, it's remarkable. And again, I want to say, if you have a child who is struggling to gain some form of communication, this is an essential. You must watch it. But if you have a child who has already gotten functional communication and they're speaking, I encourage you to watch it because it's going to uplift you and give you so much hope. And this is the film that you want to send the link to and put on Facebook to have people in your life who don't know as much about autism, when you want to light a fire under them and get them excited about what's possible, this is the film to send them and to share on Facebook. Because it's very well done. It's 27 minutes, and I would venture that you could not meet a person that this wouldn't make feel hope and joy and shed at least one tear.
And a little bit on the film, obviously it's a short film documentary, and it was entered into film competitions all over the world, and it's won awards and everything from Cannes to many other film festivals. So it's it is a very quality film. It's been enjoyed the world over, and even to the point where when we started this and we started doing it with HP as kind of the technology behind it, and then we got Autism Speaks involved in it. And they started getting so excited about this whole opportunity about the role of technology and helping people that they started, became a platform in what they started to do, and they started getting involved in it. And everybody who came in touch with this project just wanted to have a piece of it and help make it happen. And that's just to the point even where hackathons have come out. And there have been touch-enabled apps that have been developed by developer community That's all kind of become a part of this. Those are all apps available for the iPad and for Android tablets. That all spawned out of this film.
Absolutely. Well, we thank you again. We're glad that you're on our team. We are out of time, though, John, and I want to thank you again and thank everybody at Goodby, Silverstein and Partners for great work.
Our pleasure. Thank you so much for caring about this and for having me today. Appreciate it.
Take care.
All right, thank you.
Bye-bye. Really, really remarkable film. If you haven't seen it already, please go onto YouTube, type in I want to say. You might need to put in I want to say autism. You can put in Hacking Autism. All of those things will take you to the film. It is free, and it's a good use of time. And then share it on Facebook because it's a lovely, lovely film. We are out of time today, and I want to take a couple of seconds to talk about tomorrow on the show. We will have Dr. Adele Nadowski, and she's going to be answering some questions about more ways to use technology to teach our kids to learn specific skills. And we had a couple of questions about the skills program in particular that she will also be addressing. Remember that if you have questions about skills, you can always send them in advance, and we save those for when Dr. Nadowski is here because she was one of the co-creators of Skills. And also on Fridays, Dr. Jonathan Tarbox joins us for Science Beat, where there is some very exciting new research that has come out on that BIP builder that I've talked to you about before that helps you to build an intervention plan for challenging behavior, in particular in the classroom. I mean, you can use it outside the classroom, but he's going to be talking about the results of that research. You're going to be excited to hear it. So all of that and ever so much more as we wind up the week talking about autism and technology. Tomorrow, make sure that you join us 10 o'clock Pacific time, 1 p.m. Eastern time. Until then, please give your kiddos a hug from me. Bye-bye for now.